When it comes to the world of aviation, most of us think of sleek jets, cutting-edge technology, and the marvel of human engineering. But behind every plane we see in the sky, there's a story of disagreements, compromises, and design battles that can take decades to resolve. Today, we're diving into one of the most intriguing aviation debates of our time, the plane design that Europe and America just can't seem to agree on. It's a story that starts with ambition. Europe, led by Airbus, and America, led by Boeing, have both been vying for dominance in the commercial aviation market for decades. Every new aircraft is more than just metal and engines. It's a statement of innovation, national pride, and of course, billions of dollars in potential profit. But when engineers from both continents sat down to plan a new generation of planes, they quickly discovered that agreement would not come easy. At the heart of the disagreement is something that seems almost trivial to the casual observer: the size and shape of the aircraft fuselage. European designers favor a wider cabin. They argue that passengers need comfort, more space, more room for luggage, and a cabin layout that feels open and airy. For airlines, a wider cabin allows more seating options and a more versatile interior. Across the Atlantic, American engineers have a different philosophy. Boeing, for instance, has historically prioritized fuel efficiency, range, and aerodynamics over cabin width. A narrower fuselage means less drag, lower fuel consumption, and the ability to fly longer distances without refueling. For passengers, this debate has real consequences. Europeans want to feel like the cabin itself is part of the flying experience, a space that doesn't just take you from point A to point B, but one where comfort is considered a priority. Americans, meanwhile, have been conditioned to value efficiency, speed, and the ability to cover vast distances without compromise. But it's not just about comfort versus efficiency. Safety and technology play a massive role. Wider cabins require stronger materials to handle stress differently, which can increase the weight of the aircraft. More weight means more fuel consumption, which conflicts with the growing global pressure to reduce carbon emissions. On the other side, a narrow, long-range plane might be incredibly efficient, but passengers could feel claustrophobic on longer flights. And then there's the political and economic layer. Airbus is backed by several European governments, while Boeing has strong ties to the US government and defense contracts. Every design decision isn't just an engineering problem. It's a question of national pride, employment, and strategic advantage in a highly competitive global market. The result: years of delays, compromises, and projects being put on hold. Each side has its own vision of the perfect plane, and neither is willing to fully concede. Engineers and executives spend countless hours negotiating, reworking blueprints, and testing prototypes. And while the public often only sees the final product, the truth is, these disagreements can define the fate of airlines, impact ticket prices, and even influence which continent dominates the skies for the next generation. And there's more at stake than just commercial aviation. The decisions made here ripple into global supply chains, technological advancements, and even national economies. When Europe pushes for wider, more spacious planes, they're also pushing materials manufacturers, electronics suppliers, and cabin designers to innovate. When America insists on leaner, more aerodynamic designs, they're shaping fuel technology, engine performance, and aviation logistics on a global scale. So what does this mean for you as a passenger? Well, the next time you settle into your seat, whether it's a wide, spacious Airbus cabin or a more compact, efficient Boeing jet, remember that every choice, from the width of the aisle to the curvature of the wings, was influenced by a tug-of-war spanning continents, politics, and decades of engineering debates. This isn't just a story about planes. It's a story about human ambition, compromise, and the incredible complexity hidden behind the machines that take us across the world. And as we look to the future, one question remains: will Europe and America ever find common ground on this plane design? Or will this battle continue to define the skies for generations to come? As the debate raged on, engineers and designers from both continents realized that sticking to old philosophies wasn't enough. They needed a new approach, a way to satisfy comfort, efficiency, and global environmental standards, all at the same time. This is where innovation became the battleground. One of the most fascinating solutions came in the form of variable fuselage designs. Imagine a plane that isn't locked into a fixed width, but can adapt its internal layout depending on the route, passenger demand, and airline preferences. European designers pushed for a modular cabin, sections that could expand or contract, creating more space on long-haul flights while keeping efficiency in check. Americans, while initially skeptical, began to see the potential for fuel savings if the plane could remain aerodynamic despite the flexibility inside. But it wasn't just about physical design. Advanced materials started to change the game. Lighter, stronger composites meant that wider cabins no longer automatically meant heavier planes. Engineers could now build cabins that felt open and spacious, without sacrificing the efficiency that had always been America's priority. Carbon fiber wings, 3D printed components, and new aerodynamic software became tools that blurred the old lines between European comfort and American efficiency. Then there's the propulsion challenge. Longer flights and heavier cabins traditionally meant more fuel, but the push for green aviation changed everything. Hybrid electric engines, ultra-efficient turbines, and even experiments with hydrogen propulsion meant that airlines could finally dream of planes that satisfied both sides. Comfort and sustainability could coexist. But of course, it wasn't all smooth sailing. Political and economic pressures continued to weigh heavily. Each new prototype had to be approved not just by engineers, but by governments, regulators, and stakeholders who weren't just thinking about passenger experience. They were thinking about jobs, contracts, and national pride. One misstep could cost billions and potentially hand the skies to the competition. Despite these hurdles, progress started to emerge. Joint ventures and cross-continental collaboration began to take shape. Airbus and Boeing explored shared research programs, sometimes reluctantly, sometimes with cautious optimism. Engineers exchanged ideas on cabin flexibility, aerodynamic efficiency, and alternative fuels. Slowly, the airspace between Europe and America was becoming less of a battlefield and more of a laboratory. And the results are starting to show. Some of the latest prototypes feature wide, comfortable cabins paired with efficient, long-range aerodynamics. Passengers may notice a new level of comfort on transatlantic flights, while airlines enjoy operational efficiency previously thought impossible. These are not just concepts on paper. They are planes that could redefine air travel for decades to come. For travelers, this might seem like a subtle change, but it's revolutionary. It means that in the near future, you could step onto a plane that feels more like a living space than a metal tube, without airlines losing the ability to fly farther, faster, and greener. The transatlantic design debate isn't just a technical issue. It's shaping the very experience of flying itself. Ultimately, the story of this plane design is a story about compromise, vision, and human ingenuity. Europe and America, once at odds, are slowly learning that collaboration and innovation are more powerful than competition alone. What seemed impossible a decade ago is now within reach, thanks to engineers who refuse to accept the limits imposed by tradition or geography. And as we look to the skies of tomorrow, one thing becomes clear. The debate over plane design is far from over, but it's also a reminder of what happens when we dare to imagine a future that combines comfort, efficiency, and sustainability. If you've enjoyed this deep dive into the engineering, politics, and innovation behind one of aviation's most heated debates, make sure to like this video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. There's a whole world of stories in the skies waiting to be told, and you won't want to miss a single one. Because in the end, it's not just about planes. It's about how human ambition, creativity, and compromise continue to shape the way we connect with the world.